Welcome back, Emmett.
Nice to see you, Nicole.
We're talking about
Welcome to
Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd and
And
Judge.
Waititi is taking on the new Judge Dredd movie. Why is Judge Dredd getting a makeover or a remake or what do you call it?
Okay, I think they basically describe it as a reboot in the same way you restart your computer,
Reboot.
because the previous two attempts to take that comic book character and make m movies from them were not disasters, but didn't make the money the studios were expecting. And like everything else, it is success that breeds success. Success in this instance is, the old-fashioned bums on seats. Okay,
Yeah.
so um, two of the most popular comic book characters, Batman and Judge Dredd, to a degree, have a modus operandi which is bordering on fascism. Okay. If you think about Batman, he is taking the law into his own hands. He is incredibly violent for someone who says, "Oh, but I won't kill anyone," and is quite happy to engage in torture. Now, that's an incredibly unpopular view, particularly if you go back to the Adam West TV series of the 1960s, which was very much sort of pop culture, pop art, that type of thing. Judge Dredd, similar modus operandi, but he has the badge and therefore it's official. And he can make summary decisions on the street to sentence people because he is both the investigating officer, the security representative, so to speak, and the person who makes the final decision. So these are problematic characters, but people love them because they have got the self-given authority to make decisions. And I think that's something that you know people don't take into board. I'm not saying fascism in terms of racism, but in terms of authoritarian control. One has it by being self-appointed. The other has it because, well, in the background story, the police basically say we're going to have to take over from the political parties because it's caused so much that's wrong. So they're both looking to be very authoritarian figures, one way or the other. It's an you know that's not really the sort of thing you expect for comic book heroes.
Yeah, what's interesting is so Drew Pearce, who is attached to Iron Man and Mission Impossible,
Yeah.
as well as Waititi, sounds like it's going to be probably a bit more humorous, tongue-in-cheek, going down that road. Is that something you'd be excited about?
Yeah, because if you go back to the original comic book and it comes through now, it was a parody of American culture. I mean, one of the things that they had was people becoming obsessed with fads. And I think that's something we have seen all the way through the recent time, especially in the social media age. Who thought that fidget spinners was going to be a thing? Yeah, it came, it went. Um, you
No, it
know,
wasn't a thing.
yeah, and then just disappears.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have media outrage, we have boredom, we have a lack of genuine engagement with life more generally. So you go for the next thing you see on the television. Okay, and it's also a case that in most of paralleling both Batman and Judge Dredd, the villains are caricatures and have a comic element to them. It depends on how far you want to take that. The Adam West Batman, okay, everything was a caricature of a caricature. Whereas you go to the Patterson Batman, then it's grounded in a real world environment, even though you have people who want to dress up in an odd way. So I think the comic element of it was very good. And to be perfectly honest, while it's not a great movie, the
Why isn't it a great movie?
no, no. What I mean is the Sylvester
Yeah,
Stallone
but why
film.
why wasn't that? What do you think that that
Okay.
went down the original? Because I
Um,
remember it. I remember seeing that at cinema. It's a dark film, as I remember.
yeah,
Um,
they all are.
yeah.
The main thing about Judge Dredd is that you never see his face.
Ah,
All right.
personal
Of
element.
course, if you've got someone like Sylvester Stallone, he takes his helmet off at every opportunity.
Mm.
Where in comparison, the Carl Urban version, right? Fine actor, very versatile, lots of popular roles, and acted entirely underneath the helmet. You
Mm.
never saw all of his face.
Okay.
So
Mm.
part of it is this is literally the faceless agent of justice. And now, you've got to bear in mind that if you cast someone
Mm.
with a high profile, producers are going to say, get still Sylvester Stallone on the screen. If you don't, no one's going to watch it.
Of course, and you're paying the money for the actor.
Yeah.
You've got to show the whole face. The only other way of doing it is creating the characters, just spend all the money on the other actors and make this an unknown. And you could do it that way. You
Yeah,
know,
and
we
and
didn't
if
really
you
get to see Darth Vader, did we? And
no,
well, unfortunately, that guy never really
Dave Dave
made
Dave
it.
Dave Prowse,
David Prowse, the weightlifter, right?
the weightlifter, I mean the
Yeah,
Green Cross Code man for the British people who grew up in the 70s and the 80s. Okay,
yeah.
um, very very good in the physical role, but he had a West Country out accent, and people on the no no seriously on the Star Wars
Yeah.
set. Um, he had learnt every line. He delivered every line, and the actors around him said we can barely hear him. And you know, George Lucas said no, no, don't worry about it. He'd already decided to dub it before
Well,
anything else.
I'd love if there's some footage of that. I don't.
Oh, I'm sure there is. The thing about the Sylvester Stallone version of Judge Dredd is they got the aesthetic quite right.
Mm,
The robots, the claustrophobic, overpopulated mega city one, so
mhm,
everything
mhm,
from Boston all the way down to Philadelphia, you
mm.
know, 200 million people living there. That was well done. And I think it was Danny Cannon who was the director. And of course, he went on to start the CSI series on TV. A very successful director. He was one of his first films. Very well done. I know that some of the reviewers said it's slightly unfortunate because they wouldn't have known it. But I think it's the Indonesian film The Raid
Right.
had a very similar plot about storming a tower block to get to the top.
Mm.
Okay. Um, but just in terms of the certain grimness and efficiency of Judge Dredd, the Carl Urban version was much better.
Okay. Oh,
Right.
that's good to know. I've got a feeling that they've brought in Taika
Yeah.
Waititi, brought him in because, well, I mean, his some of his early films have been really good, but he's got a touch for what I think is you're saying is missing from the other ones, which is a bit more of a personal story or a connection to maybe to rather than all this. You can get all the aesthetic right, but if you haven't got the underneath an earthy story and feelings of the characters, so maybe he's the right guy. They're bringing him in because they've seen where the other ones have failed, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
and I would say that, Judge Dredd, really was a pastiche or and a huge satirical view on American society
hmm.
in the 1970s and has gone on being that.
But it's a UK invention.
Exactly. And I think it was, to a certain degree,
Yeah.
it was saying, well, what is modernity in the 1970s? And modernity was America.
Yeah.
And I think that's very much grounded in it. This is just, after the space race had finished,
Mhm.
technological change was largely American viewed. You
Mhm.
you couldn't really see the same attitude working through there. And particularly in terms of the nature of law enforcement, don't mean to be sarcastic in saying this, but the British Bobby was never going to be Judge Dredd.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. Yeah,
Whereas you will have seen some of the SWAT teams
yeah.
where they're wearing body armor and helmets and are dressed in black, and it's not so far different from what Judge Dredd sort of was portraying.
Excellent. I think okay, we look forward to seeing that whenever that comes out.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably 2026.